So I was recently in Austin, Texas, using Tesla's new Robotaxi service, and in my 3 days in Austin, I took over 50 Robotaxi rides and covered over 250 miles. Now, due to this service being invite only and a small number of people having access, although Tesla is inviting more and more people every day, I wanted to share with you some of the worst things that the Robotaxi did, on top of some of the best things that it did, and tell you more about the experience as kind of a review of how the car drives, but also how the service works as a whole. So let's just start off with the bad. This is where the Tesla haters love me and the Tesla lovers hate me. It's tough when you just try to give the whole overall perspective, but that's all right. We're gonna have something for everybody in this video. So the first thing that the Robotaxi did wrong, that was really wrong, and I already shared this in a video, was when I told it to pull over and let me out. This is an option that you have presented to you when you get close to your destination. A little pop-up comes up on the screen and you just can say, hey, just drop me off, next time it's safe and I'd like to get out here. Now, I point out that this is an option presented to you because some people want to point out that by doing this, I made the car mess up or something. I was just using the options presented to me as a customer. I'm just gonna click drop me off now since that's an option and see what the Robotaxi does. End ride now. The vehicle will pull over to the nearest safe location. Heck yeah, let's do it. Although I do know that earlier, older versions of full self-driving did have issues with rerouting, and this is partially why I picked this option. So I pressed the pull over now button and it says waiting for safe spot to pull over. All good. Sounds like it's going to do what it needs to do before we reach our destination, except it actually stopped and put itself into park in a left turn lane. Our team has identified an issue and is working to resolve it. Please exit safely. Thank you for riding in the Robotaxi. I don't need to say it. I did not exit the Robotaxi in the middle of the road. I was not going to do that. I just kind of waited for a second. After that, service chimed in.
Robotaxi support. How can I help you?
Can you just please resume the ride?
Copy that.
And within a few seconds after that, the car continued to drive and took me to the end destination that it was originally going to take me to, where it put itself into park safely in a parking lot, and I was able to hop out. Now look, I'm not trying to be too overly negative with this Robotaxi thing. I am very impressed by it. I think overall, the thing did a great job, and it's so funny reading the comments because you'll see the exact same scenario, the one I just described. Half the people are losing their minds saying, this is the most dangerous, crazy thing ever, and the other half of the comments are saying like, oh yeah, that's not a big deal. Overall, in my opinion, it wasn't that big of a deal with the overall context of everything. And why I say that is the entire event lasted less than 40 seconds. It didn't put anybody in immediate danger, unless I would have hopped out of the Robotaxi at that time, but I did not do that. And even though we were partially blocking a left turn lane, we were far enough back in the left turn lane that a couple of people were able to go around us and get to where they were going, and nobody even honked. If nobody is honking, especially in a downtown area where people are driving a little more aggressively anyway, I can kind of guess that the overall situation that was caused by this Robotaxi was not that big of a deal. Now, next up, this scenario, in my opinion, was a little bit worse, and I posted a video of the event to X already, so it is out there in the public, but I didn't really realize at the time the full extent of what had happened in this scenario. So I went to a place called Home Slice Pizza, and the reason I went there is there can be parking of vehicles on both sides of where you need to drive through, and if people are parking in both of those sides, squeezing through is really tight and hard to get to. On top of that, even if nobody is parked there, the Robotaxi, for whatever reason, decided that it wanted to go really close to this short wall on the left side of the car. And no big deal, some people say, hey, it's a computer. The difference between, a millimeter and an inch is kind of meaningless when it's a computer doing the calculations. And if, you think that, that's fine. But from a human perspective, it was pretty close to the wall and it was unnecessary. There was plenty of room to the right where the car could have given a little more of a gap. And so I thought this was interesting, and I went to that same location a couple of times. Well, earlier in the day, in the same parking lot where the incident I'm about to talk about took place, the Robotaxi was actually getting farther away from that wall. And so I said, wow, this looks like, I had posted on X that it was getting really close to this wall. It looks like either just by chance or maybe Tesla fixed something to make it so the Robotaxi doesn't go so close. Oh no, look. Yeah, seems like they fixed it. So that night I was taking randos who were DMing me on X for Robotaxi rides, and I said, hey, let's go to Home Slice and see if it gets close to that wall again and kind of prove my, thesis here that maybe they changed something. And when we arrived this time, there were cars parked on both sides of this narrow area you needed to drive through. Now, as we pulled up from the inside of the car, I was like, whoa, this is really tough. I don't know if it's going to be able to squeeze through here or what's going to happen. Luckily, Robotaxi does have a reversibility, so I thought that might pop up. But as we got really close to the car parked on the left, the Robotaxi put itself myself in park and said, all right, you're here, get out. And I said, okay, well, we're at our destination, so let's hop out and watch this from the outside. So at that point, I'm watching and a Robotaxi starts to go, and for whatever reason, it turns left towards the parked car, and it kind of slows down, and then it kind of starts to go again, and then the hazard lights come on the vehicle. And I go, oh, I think the safety operator stopped it just in time.
It didn't touch it.
It didn't touch.
I'm wondering if he stopped it, though.
Yeah, that's what I think. I should have been there.
Yeah.
The bumper of the Model Y was this close to that other vehicle, but it didn't touch. And I said, hey, you know what? At least the thing didn't touch. Maybe the vehicle stopped itself, but my guess, although I couldn't see for sure, was that the safety passenger pushed some button on the screen and made the vehicle stop. Well, at the same time, the owner of that parked vehicle was outside, and he comes up and he's checking it out, and he goes, is this your car? And I go, no, it's Tesla's. And he goes, yeah, I know it's a Tesla, but is it yours? And I explained, no, it's a Robotaxi. It's Tesla owns it. And he immediately understood, oh, okay, this is Tesla's vehicle. They own it. Tesla owns it.
Oh, it's Tesla.
It's Tesla. Tesla owns it, yeah. Yeah, it didn't touch, right?
Yeah, they hit my car.
It touched?
Yeah. Really? Yeah.
No way.
No, it did.
Yeah, they do.
Let me see.
Look.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah, they do.
oh, I didn't think it touched. I was recording a video. It looked like it stopped right at the last second there. I thought, I swear it did not touch, because keep in mind, I'm looking at the bumper of the Model Y next to that parked vehicle. Well, when you look closer, you could see that the tire of the Model Y did touch the parked vehicle. And at the time, in the moment, because it's dark out, the tire is black, I didn't see it. And I thought, man, well, I didn't see it touch, but oh well, this is not my vehicle. So I guess that, whatever he's seeing, he sees that the vehicle touched. But looking back in retrospect, it is obvious that the tire of the Tesla Model Y did touch that other vehicle. So that was kind of the worst of what happened. A little bit after that, the Tesla is still sitting there. I don't know what's happening. I'm guessing the safety guy is talking back to the remote people who are watching over from California. And eventually, the safety passenger gets out of the Tesla, gets into the driver's seat, and he drives away after the other vehicle had left. Now, I can spin some good news out of this if you want. Both of these scenarios I encountered were very low speed, and I would say they didn't put any humans into danger. But I've said it in the past, as Tesla continues to roll this out, it should get to a point where mistakes are very difficult for any individual like me to find. I shouldn't be able to go on 50 Robotaxi rides over 260 whatever miles and find one or two mistakes. It should be all of those drives with really nothing happening. Now, I will point out on the other side of that, there were no pedestrians in danger or cyclists or anything like that. So any of the issues that I did see were more just weirdness in the way it was behaving and driving, rather than outright being dangerous or something like that. Now, most of the Robotaxis I requested came really quickly to pick me up, usually less than 10 minutes, but being out in Austin this week, waiting around in the hot Texas sun for a Tesla Robotaxi to come pick me up reminded me of something. The sun will age your skin if you don't take care of it. Guys, listen up. Having better skin does not need to be complicated. Today's sponsor, Geologie, is changing the game. They're a 41-time award-winning skincare company featured in Men's Health and Esquire, and their routines are built around a few powerful, dermatologist-trusted ingredients. No fluff, just results. I'll be real, I never know where to start with skincare, and I know you saw that huge zit I had on my nose just a couple of days ago in Austin, which thankfully is gone now. But Geologie has made it stupid simple. I took a quick 60-second quiz, told them my goals, anti-aging, and keeping my face clear, and boom, they sent me a personalized routine right to my door. I've been using several of Geologie's formulas, including the face wash and the moisturizer that has SPF in it to protect me from the sun. And Stephanie's been stealing my one with the retinol in it, so she's been enjoying that. And even better, using my code down below, Tesla100, you get 30 days worth of product for absolutely free. You just need to pay shipping. On top of that, you get a free gift of your choice and up to 50% off add-ons. That is over $50 in products for just a few bucks for shipping. Hit the link or scan the QR code on screen. Your skin and future self will thank you. That's geologie.com, Geologie. Also on Amazon, or you can pick it up at Target. Now, one more negative I will cover that didn't have anything to do with being dangerous or whatever, but was more behavioral. I requested pickup in a closed parking lot. It was actually where the last Robotaxi dropped me off, so I knew a Robotaxi was capable of picking me up there. But the Robotaxi that came to pick us up after the drop-off got confused, and it didn't know how to get in the parking lot. So it just kept circling around and trying to get to us, even though it was driving directly by us on the road that we were standing on. If in the app I had that same pull over button that I have in the vehicle, I simply could have pressed that when I saw the Robotaxi. It then would have pulled over so I could hop in. But as of now, it's not an option in the app. Now, Tesla was asking for a lot of feedback, so I'm guessing something like this will get implemented pretty soon. soon, but I had to wait as the Robotaxi just kept driving around us several times. And so that added, I don't know, probably 10 minutes or something to our trip, when our wait for the Robotaxi at that time was the longest one yet at just over 20 minutes. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Let's see if we can. Oh, he's just coming around. It's got its hazards on. Can I say, I need a button that says like pull over here. Oh, there it goes. It's pulling over. Now, here's what impressed me. It seems that the software that Tesla is using for these robotaxis has additional capabilities that our FSD vehicles that we own don't have. And it better, because there's some things that our FSD vehicles still can't do that are standard practice on roads. I've talked about this for a long time. It's very obvious. It's not an edge case. It's just something you need to be able to do if you're going to be out there driving around. And there was an ambulance behind us. I turned around and I looked, and at the same moment, the robotaxi began pulling over. It waited at the side of the road. Even the human who was driving in a Cybertruck nearby us drove by us and did not pull over in time for that ambulance, in my opinion. And a few seconds after the ambulance left, the Model Y then resumes driving when it was well clear.
It pulled over.
Yes, it pulled over.
Oh my gosh.
This was awesome. It was handled perfectly, better than I've seen a lot of people do it, including the people in that video clip. And I was so happy to see this new capability. Along with that, a lot of people were asking me about school zones, but it's summer, so there's no school. There's no school zones that are enforcing any lower speeds at this time. Now, another thing I saw a Robotaxi do, and I wasn't even in it, was reversing when it was partially blocking an intersection. So the Robotaxi I was in was doing a great job of getting through, again, some emergency vehicle. There were a lot of fire engines partially blocking the road, blocking the other side of the road, parked nearby, tons of flashing lights going off, and everything was a little bit chaotic. My Robotaxi I was sitting in handled it very gracefully. It just slowly went through, was in the correct lane, did all that nicely. But because of those fire trucks that were blocking the opposite lane, there was a Robotaxi in front of us in the left turn lane that could not proceed through its turn after it had a green light. It had to wait, and it did a great job of not proceeding when there was a fire truck in its way. Now, the problem with its situation is it had creeped partially into the intersection, completely blocked the crosswalk, also partially blocked the intersection, and there were some people trying to get across, and it backed up as much as it could. Now, there was a person behind it, unfortunately, so it couldn't back up all the way, but it backed up, so about half of the crosswalk was no longer blocked. This is something that our cars kind of can do. They can kind of go in reverse, but for the most part, people have noticed that it really only goes into reverse when it's near the beginning or the end of a drive. I'm not saying it can't happen in the middle, it's just a lot more rare. So it was nice to see the Robotaxi do this really naturally. Now, I did have a few responses over on X where people were saying, oh, it's the safety passenger, blah, blah, blah. From my understanding, they don't have any of those commands. You can see what they can do on the screen. We've seen it in other people's videos where they do press the, stop in lane button or the pull over now button to make the car stop. And reverse is not an option. Reversing is something the Robotaxi can do. I also saw it do a multi-point turn to get out of a tight parking lot after dropping me off. That was another really impressive backing up maneuver. So it's nice to see the Robotaxi is able to move both forwards and backwards with ease. And if you really think about it, to a Robotaxi, forwards and backwards shouldn't be that big of a difference. If it has 360-degree view, it's looking in all directions at all times, then going backwards or forwards shouldn't make that much of a difference. Now, overall, the handling of VRUs, vulnerable road users, this is like cyclists and pedestrians, was fantastic. The vehicle seemed a little extra sensitive to pedestrians and cyclists, which overall I think is a good thing. I have a couple examples I will show you right now. But I could tell that compared to my vehicle, although my vehicle is still very safe and will of course stop for pedestrians and cyclists, the Robotaxi seemed a little more alert and seemed to not want to be near them as much. Oh, nice. Again, I heard people frame this as a negative, like, oh, it should be able to just drive a little quicker near them. No, I totally disagree. I think this is by far the right approach, especially in the early days, but maybe forever. You don't know what pedestrians are going to do, if they're going to mess around, if they're going to trip and fall in front of you, even if they don't mean to be in front of you. So I think this is a great choice by Tesla to make the vehicles extra super safe around cyclists, pedestrians, and other VRUs. The other more generic thing that I was very impressed with was how smooth everything was, from braking, accelerating, turning, all of it, especially when I compared it to the Waymo. I was in 2 different Waymo while in Austin, and John, who did some rides with me, said that the Waymo felt like full self-driving beta, which I actually totally agree with. It just is more clunky. Now, the Waymo was also very safe. It worked very well. I'm very impressed with Waymo's abilities, and it's driving around, and it's very cool. It's a Robotaxi. I like to take it. I had to take it sometimes because its geofence is bigger than Tesla's Robotaxi for now. But the overall smoothness is nowhere near the Tesla Robotaxi. Tesla's vehicles just accelerated and braked and turned so much more gentle than the Waymo did. The Waymo almost felt like it was on edge a little bit, is kind of the best way I can describe the way it was driving around. It didn't almost hit anybody or almost hit anything or go off the road. It's just the way it moved about the world was not the most comfortable. Now let's talk about the safety passenger. This is another huge topic. People were very interested in this, and I don't blame them because we have a driverless Robotaxi, but you still have the employee in the passenger seat who is basically watching the car drive. This person is not sitting there relaxing, looking at their phone, doing anything like that. You can see watching the videos or when you were in it by yourself, they are watching the road. They're looking left and right when we're making turns. They're looking ahead. They're looking behind us when the vehicle is backing up. So they are very much supervising this software. So at this point, I was kind of thinking of this being FSD unsupervised, but I can't call it that because it is being supervised by an employee in the passenger seat who's ready to take over at any time. What I can call it is driverless. The employee did pretty much nothing. In my rides and videos, besides my very first ride where the safety passenger said, please continue the trip, I don't think any of my safety passengers did anything the entire time. They were not helping the car turn. They weren't confirming anything. They weren't stopping. They weren't backing the car up. There was nothing that they did except supervise and be ready in case of an emergency or maybe some weird scenario like we saw in, I think it was Dave Lee's video with the UPS truck backing up, and it seemed that the Model Y was going to just sit there or even continue forward. He hit the little stop button, so there would be no collision there. But it does detract from the overall experience. One of the cool things of having a Robotaxi like a Waymo or Tesla's is that you just are in there by yourself. You don't have somebody like watching you and listening to everything you're doing and saying and just kind of being awkward. With this, I could listen to my music, of course, but maybe they don't like my music. Maybe my music is too loud. What if I want it to be really hot in the car and they don't like that? So it just gets kind of weird. I will also comment on the button. The safety passengers had their hands on the passenger door button. I don't know what it is, but people were guessing, and I think this is a good guess, is that it was an emergency stop button. So on the screen, they had stop in lane, which would just tell the car to kind of gently come to a stop and maybe put itself in park, I assume, or the pull over button, which I also had access to in the back seat, where the car would find a safe spot to pull off the road and kind of be done driving at that point. The other button that I think they have to have access to, I'm totally guessing, but I think it's legal, is an emergency stop button. You'll see this in other autonomous things and machines where you can just boom, hit the button and then it'll stop everything. And I'm guessing, especially because people have been saying this so much online, that the passenger door button was mapped to an emergency stop button. You don't want something like that on the touchscreen. Imagine there's an emergency and you go to, touch an emergency stop and you accidentally change the song or something. That's not going to be good. So I'm guessing that's what that was and why their hand was there, but nobody has seen the button used or pressed. Outside of that, they weren't doing anything else over there. I did have pictures that I posted where the safety passengers didn't even have their hand on the button or weren't holding over there. There were some crazy theories going on where they were driving the car, with a game controller behind all that stuff is crazy. But the button obviously did something because their hand was always kind of near it, but we don't know exactly what that is. The rear seat infotainment was very cool because it syncs to your cloud profile with Tesla if you have one. And I'm sure if you download the Robotaxi app and you don't have a Tesla, you can make that same account so everything syncs. But as I would switch from one car to another, if I had a song playing, it would continue playing in that next Robotaxi, which was wild. If you have a movie on Netflix, you're signed into your Netflix, you just press the button and then you can watch Netflix and that's it. It just works. And it would be at the same point. Now that's a Netflix feature, but having that also integrated, into the Robotaxi so things are just seamlessly transitioned from one to the next was such a cool experience. One thing that was missing is Bluetooth support. Maybe this will get added eventually. I don't know. It seems like it'd be kind of messy, but if you wanted to have a controller in the Robotaxi in the back seat to play some of the games, there was no way to do that. You can of course play them with the touchscreen, but some of the games in the Tesla vehicles have to have a controller to work. There wasn't a way to do that. So you also can't have headphones, which if you're alone in the Robotaxi, I don't think you'd want to do that anyway, but just something to point out. So one of the biggest questions people ask me is, what about rolling this out? What about the expansion of the service to more people? What's Tesla doing? What are they planning? When do you think this is going to happen? I don't know, but I can guess for you. In all the videos and things that I've seen, I don't think we've seen anything that was a near collision or anything that's insanely dangerous. There were some low speed, almost bumper touches. There were some weird turns. There was some wiggling of the steering wheel. But I would say there were no huge safety scenarios or safety concerns, especially involving pedestrians or cyclists or anything like that. With that considered, if we can assume that all the driving has been what I experienced, which we can't assume that, but we're going to, it seems that Tesla really could start expanding this geofence pretty quickly. And that's what we all want to see. If Tesla's idea of making a robotaxi, not having HD maps, being able to just use cameras and have a really good brain is true, if what they've been saying for years is accurate, yes, the geofence is slightly small now. It's about half of Waymo, so it's not terrible. We should see this expand in a decent amount of time. I would think in 6 months from now, we should have all of Austin. It should be, I'm going to say, a bigger geofence than Waymo. I'm going for it here. And they should probably be in another city or two, especially somewhere in California where they have so much data. I don't know if we're going to see that, but that's what I want to see. We can revisit this in 6 months and kind of see how we think Tesla's doing. If we're not seeing that, then things are just not going as smoothly as Tesla hoped. Could they then, 6 months later, surpass that and catch up? Sure, of course they could, but we can only work with the information we have as of today. The service was fast, safe, and affordable. So I think anyone that gets access to it, again, more people in Austin all the time, just random people are getting access. I think anybody would want to use this. The vehicles are nice, they're comfortable, they're smooth, they're cheap, they have all your infotainment in them. It's a great service. Tesla just needs to expand it and hopefully get rid of the safety driver pretty quickly. So let me know what you would want to test in the Robotaxi or what you would want to see or any questions I didn't answer, and you will see me in the next video.